All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:28 p.m. If you kind of want to get settled in and find your seats in the audience, we're going to start promptly at 6:30, and John Hunt will be beginning the program shortly. So just kind of prepare yourself, and we'll keep the chatter down just a little bit. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Hastings, and welcome to the Hastings Candidate Forum for 2022, presented by the Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce and in partnership with Hastings Community TV. I'm John Hunt from Smead Manufacturing, and I'll be the moderator for this year's forum. Tonight, we're going to hear from candidates running for Hastings City Council at Large, Minnesota House District 41B, and Minnesota Senate District 41. So here's how you can watch tonight's forum in case you miss it or you want to watch it again. It's airing live on Hastings Community TV's YouTube page, and it will be available there afterwards, as well as on the Hastings Chamber of Commerce website. You can also watch it on cable channel 15 SD and 859 HD. And finally, the rules. Members of the audience, now is the time for you to make sure your cell phones are muted. Please remember, this is a forum and not a debate, so no interruptions are allowed. All questions submitted were reviewed by a committee and categorized to cover 4 to 5 important topics and were reviewed by a committee. These questions were not provided to the candidates in advance, so candidates, if you need a question repeated, feel free to ask. Everyone will be allowed 1 minute for introductions, a minute to answer the questions, and a minute for a closing statement. We're going to alternate who answers the question first. Our timekeeper will indicate where there's 15 seconds left with a yellow sign, and if it's time to stop, there will be a red sign. Now, as the moderator, I'm allowed to cut candidates off if they go over on their time. But that's all there is for me right now. We're going to first start out with a brief statement from the mayor of Hastings, Mary Fassbender, and Mary is running unopposed for a second term as mayor. Please welcome Hastings Mayor Mary Fassbender.
Thank you, John. Hard to believe it's been 4 years that I was in this position, so I'm so thankful that I am running unopposed, and I thank all of you for trusting in me. I'd also like to thank the Hastings Chamber of Commerce and HCTV for hosting this important event. I also want to thank you for showing up so you can educate yourself as to who you feel is the correct candidate for the city of Hastings. It's been an honor to be the mayor of Hastings and to serve the residents of our city over the past 4 years. It's been a very fast and exciting time. Although COVID was upon us for some time, we were very fortunate to see growth that we haven't seen in 10 to 15 years. With the development of over 450 housing units and 100 to 150 single-family homes developed this year and early next year has been so wonderful for our community. With some of these new housing developments developed for seniors, we will be able to see seniors move into their next stages of life in these developments, and for new families to move to their homes, and hopeful with children to help our declining enrollment of children for our schools. From a business side, we have had some growth as well. The expansion of Quality One Woodworking and the most recently development of Intech expansion has been great, and that expansion will happen in 2023. We've also seen some small businesses come to our community as well. Grateful for any business that chooses Hastings, and I'm especially grateful to see Fleet Farm fill our empty old Target building. Grateful to, with the expansions of the new businesses opening, they have created full-time positions in equivalence to 150 jobs, which is great for our community as well. My goals for my second term will be to continue economic development in the forms of more housing, businesses, and employment opportunities, encouraging the hiring of diverse for the open city staff positions, encourage enhanced training options for our police and fire, and community beautification, and continued support for our people movement plan. Being mayor takes a great deal of time. I feel I have given that time to this community, and again, I will prioritize this for these next 4 years that I am able to be mayor. So thank you for tonight's opportunity to speak. I wish all the candidates well tonight, and again, like I always do, speak from your heart for our community, and you'll all do a great job.
Thank you, Mary, for joining us tonight. And but before we move on, we also received via email a statement from Commissioner Slavic, and I'll just be reading that to you right now. Thank you to the Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce and HCTV for hosting tonight's forum. I do wish I could join you all today. However, I have a previously scheduled county meeting during tonight's event. Though I am on the ballot this November with no opponent, I appreciate the opportunity to briefly share some of the good work over the past 4 years as your county commissioner and my vision for the future. Dakota County is a great place to live, work, and play. Over the past 4 years, the county has made smart investments in roads, trails, parks, and natural resources while still being debt-free. Dakota County was a leader in its public health response and its support of small businesses during the pandemic. Since 2021, Dakota County has the lowest county tax rate of all 87 counties. When I was first elected, Dakota County was the 7th lowest out of 87 counties. Moving forward, as work-from-home options become the norm, work will not dictate where someone lives. The county board is committed to making Dakota County the place you choose to live while also welcoming new residents to call Dakota County home. That means investments in infrastructure, open spaces, and good quality of life amenities while maintaining low taxes that will attract and grow businesses in our county. I would like to thank the community for their support over the years and continue to encourage you to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. It's truly been my honor to serve the Hastings community, first as Hastings City Council member and currently as your Dakota County Commissioner, and I ask for your vote on November 8th or before. That's County Commissioner Mike Slavic. All right, well, we're going to start with the City Council at large race, and I'd like to ask the candidates now to please take their seats up on the stage behind their name badge. Well, I want to thank you all for participating tonight. We're going to begin with your opening statements. Angie House will start with your opening statement, followed by Ian Martin's, and we'll continue down the line. Ms. House, you have 1 minute for your opening statement and can start when you are ready.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you to Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce, HCTV, and everyone listening tonight. My name is Angie House, and I'm a lifelong resident of Hastings, and I have a deep-rooted love for our town and community. I graduated from Hastings High School and went to Century College and graduated there with an associate's degree in dental assisting. And now I work at Smile Orthodontics in St. Paul, where I work as a dental assistant and clinical operations specialist. I currently am a board member on nonprofits Thrive and Idea in Town, and I've volunteered extensively throughout my life. Being on city council is an extension of my desire to help others. I want to be your at-large city council member because I believe the best work in government is done locally, and I want to be the voice on the council for establishing strong, high standards for government performance. We have a very involved community, and I am thrilled to further my involvement by being on council.
All right, Mr. Martin, you can please give us now your opening statement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hunt. Thanks to HCTV and the Chamber for hosting this. I am Ian Martin, born and raised in Hastings, 2005 graduate of Hastings High School. I went on to earn a Bachelor's of Science in Law Enforcement and a Master's in Public Administration, both from Metropolitan State University. Former police officer and a current operations agent at the Metropolitan Airports Commission. My civic duties as a volunteer have been a commissioner on the Heritage Preservation Commission and most recently vice chair of the Planning Commission. I live on the west side of town on Greystone Road with my wife Kelsey, been married to her for almost 6 years. Son of Dennis and Wendy, and interested in serving as your next city council member to be for public safety, parks, and citywide vision beyond downtown. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Pemble, you get to give your opening statement.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dave Pemble. I'm a longtime resident of the city of Hastings. I'm running for city council at large position. I'm a candidate with experience in multiple public service roles, including 6 years on the Public Safety Advisory Commission and as a member of the Hastings 2030 Comprehensive Plan Commission. I am also a past school board member in both ISD 917 and ISD District 200. I am a retired licensed part-time peace officer for the city of Hastings, with which I have spent over 25 years of service to our community. I've also served as an air-ground search specialist for the CAP United States Air Force, serving Greater Dakota County and the city of Hastings for over 10 years. I am currently finishing my 6th year on the Hastings Park and Rec Commission, and I want to thank personally Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce and Channel 14 for hosting tonight's forum. Thank you.
And Mr. Wright, could you please give us your opening statement?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Wright, a candidate for Hastings City Council at large. I want to first acknowledge Council members Lori Brooks and Mark Vaughn. I think Hastings is very fortunate to have their service the past 8 years. Also want to thank, of course, HCTV and the Chamber for putting this on tonight. About me, growing up, I was a soccer player, snowboarder, baritone player, if any of you are out there, and also a band kid, and a theater kid, of course, can't forget that. I have degrees in radio broadcasting and communications. I enjoyed working 15 years for Hastings Community TV, the last 10 of which as the executive director. I am an Army veteran that served 7 years, 3 of which as an Army Ranger. I'm the founder and coordinator of the annual Memorial Day March for Them event here in Hastings. I'm currently a local business owner of Method Organization with my beautiful co-owner, Melanie, who is in the audience today. Our family, I think, has taken up half the audience. Why am I running? Running for office has been a goal of mine since I was a kid. At 42 years old, I figured I'd better give this a shot. And with that stop sign, I'm done. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all for those opening statements. And we're going to now move into our first question. This is where my part gets a little challenging because I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit, and you'll go in an order. So, and again, these questions, if you need them repeated, please let me know. But we're going to start first with Mr. Pemble, and then we'll follow with Ms. House. So here's question number 1. If elected to city council, you'll be asked to make decisions for the city that may at times be unpopular. How do you plan to involve the public and work with fellow council members in making both popular and unpopular decisions? Mr. Pemble.
I think first off, when you look at it, and most people know me, that I tend to have a good point of conversation, and I'm looking at discussions with not only individuals, but with community groups and others, and say, you know, we have to work together, and that means two-way communication. And in order to do that, you have to present your point, and the other folks have to present theirs. But you can't just knock heads. You have to be able to say, okay, we can come to an understanding and make things work. And that's the way I perceive to move forward with that point of view. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Ms. House, I'll read it again for you. If elected to city council, you'll be asked to make decisions for the city that may be at times unpopular. How do you plan to involve the public and work with fellow council members in making both popular and unpopular decisions?
Thank you. I think the key to that is listening to our residents, listening to our businesses, and listening to our city staff, Chamber of Commerce, everyone involved. I think the city understands its role, which is to set up great infrastructure, public safety, code enforcement, and amenities. And I think we all know that sometimes hard decisions have to be made. Sometimes taxes have to be raised. Sometimes plans don't go as planned. But I think we have to have a better understanding of one another to get off on the right foot. And I think listening is the key to that.
Okay, then we'll go to Mr. Martin next. If elected to city council, you'll be asked to make decisions for the city that at times may be unpopular. How do you plan to involve the public and work with fellow council members in making both popular and unpopular decisions?
I think listening is the key to that. There's a saying that I use at work quite often. There's a difference between listening and waiting to talk. I think a lot of people wait to talk. They're not actually engaged in listening. And part of listening is suspending your personal belief on an issue and truly thinking about it from the vantage point of a resident, a business, an entity, whether it be a project, zoning, ordinance violation, whatever. You have to weigh those competing interests, and ultimately at the end of the day, make a decision that has the greatest good for the greatest amount of people in mind. And the other key to that is also transparency. Information isn't always going to be good, but we need to be transparent as elected officials for whatever the decisions that we make that are being made. So, thanks.
And Mr. Wright, if elected to city council, you'll be asked to make decisions for the city that may be at times unpopular. How do you plan to involve the public and work with fellow council members in making both popular and unpopular decisions?
Well, a good chunk of my career was spent in communications for the city of Hastings, for the community of Hastings. So I'm experienced in this, and sometimes we do have to broadcast things that weren't popular with the public. And I think the key thing to avoid the pitchforks per se is to really explain things and why things are being done. I think a lot of people might get up in arms about something, just knee-jerk reaction because they don't really understand it. And so I think a key thing is to really help explain it and in a way that people understand it, and using, of course, any platform or media possible. And then in the end, you might not have everybody still not agreeing with you, but at least you explained it and they most understand it, and you're never going to win everybody over, but at least you explained it thoroughly and gave them a chance to hear your side, both sides.
All right, we'll move on to the next question now, and we'll start with Mr. Martin on this one. How would you characterize the business climate in Hastings, and what, if anything, would you do to improve it?
I think, as the mayor mentioned earlier, the business climate's really gathering momentum with Fleet Farm, Jersey Mike's, Intech expanding, KFC on Vermilion Street. We're really seeing an invigorated part of our economy there that we haven't seen for many years. What I would do to ensure that keeps going is stay in tune with the community and what they're looking for. door knocking, I've heard a lot of trepidation about Vermilion Street. And me personally, I think we will kill economic growth down Vermilion Street if we build a wall down the middle of that road. If we're going to limit left turns, businesses are going to look at that, traffic counts are going to change. It's going to affect the accessibility of businesses, and we're also going to have problems on streets that are behind them, getting people to those businesses. So we really need to have a close ear on that project here in the near future. Thanks.
And Mr. Wright, same question. How would you characterize the business climate in Hastings? What, if anything, would you do to improve it?
I think it's, from my perspective, very positive. I think it's grown immensely in the time that I've been here in Hastings. We've got many new events that have sprung up with the holiday hoopla, the downtown, the creepy crawl, the holiday candy crawl, which, by the way, is Sunday, October 30th, 2 to 5. A little plug for them right there. But there's many events like that. Rivertown Days and Christiana Chamber have, tried new ideas with that and done new things, cool things with that. I see a lot more businesses getting involved in sponsoring events in the town as well. Gobblegate's in, 25th year now this year, and I know that's going way strong. I've never had a problem with my event getting sponsors for that. So I would say it's a very positive, but I think to improve it, it's just continue collaboration, continue partnerships, continue networking, and I think the chamber, the DBA, the city can all be involved in that.
Okay, Ms. House, same question for you. How would you characterize the business climate in Hastings, and what, if anything, would you do to improve it?
Thank you. I think business has been going great in Hastings. We have been growing and maintaining our local development, and we've also had new expanding and new businesses like Fleet Farm, Hastings Dairy Store, Squeaky Wheel Pottery. These are a large array of local businesses that have come in, and then we have other things like InTech that are expanding as well. And it's only growing. We have Confluence opening up in May. I think the city can keep promoting this by listening to the businesses and the infrastructure that goes in. Like Ian was saying, I think it's a really important part to take in what's going on the Vermilion Corridor, and I think mainly listening to each other.
And finally, Mr. Pemble, how would you characterize the business climate in Hastings, and what, if anything, would you do to improve it?
I'm looking at the business climate in Hastings and saying it's twofold. Really, we have a climate on a retail basis that's growing immensely, I would say, in the past few years, and it looks to grow even more. But when you look at the commercial aspect, the industrial aspect of growth for good jobs and changes in, we have an industrial park where we have 50 acres of land that we've had trouble trying to find a business, a company that will come in and pursue those things. The other thing is looking forward. We are a community that sees 37,000 vehicles driving up and down Vermilion Street right here. And, Ian and everybody else is right. Whatever we do on the Vermilion Corridor is going to affect business. So we have to be very cautious. Thank you.
All right, now for the third question, Mr. Wright, we're going to start with you, followed by Mr. Pemble. So overseeing the city's budget is an important role of City Council. How do you feel the city has done when it comes to balancing community needs while being mindful of tax burden placed on residents and businesses, and what, if anything, would you do differently?
From my perspective, I'm sorry, can we go back? So again, the 2022 budget, it's about the first time they've had an increase in tax rates since 2016. And so that's a positive news. I think, and comparing to like similar cities like Columbia Heights, same population, their budget's like 46 million per year, and Hastings is at 42.5. So I think that's positive, just comparing us to other cities. So we're getting by with less. things I would look at differently. Perhaps there's some cost savings. I've noticed, other police departments diving into hybrid vehicles and patrol vehicles and saving their vehicle budget by half with fuel savings in fuel costs. And I understand the upfront cost is about $3,000 more per vehicle, so it's doable. But I haven't been involved in discussions with that, so I'm going to stop talking right now. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Pemble, same question. Overseeing the city's budget is an important role of city council. How do you feel the city has done when it comes to balancing community needs while being mindful of the burden that's on residents and businesses? And what, if anything, would you do differently?
I guess first off, like Tom had said, we're a $42 million plus a year budget for the 2022 number, and we're looking at if the current council approves, the rate increase will be like it's 6%, 6.6% rate increase for the 23 budget. But looking in the big picture, we are a community that has been around a while. It's just like taking care of a house. You have to look at streets, infrastructure, the sewer, the water, the sheer business product things that need to be addressed. I mean, you're looking at building about or using about $4 million a year on roads, but there's not a lot of extra to do anything else. And yes, you have to be cautious because it looks like we're going into a downturn in the first 2 quarters of next year. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Howes, same question. Overseeing the city's budget is an important role of city council. How do you feel the city has done when it comes to balancing community needs while being mindful of tax burden placed on residents and businesses? And what, if anything, would you do differently?
Thank you. So I think the city has done pretty well at managing this. Looking at the 2023 preliminary budget, there's an estimated annual property increase for taxes on about $195 or $16.25 a month. I think this is really, really doable through all the inflation we've been going through. Prices have skyrocketed. So I think it's really important that the city has been pretty understanding, and I think going forward, we are dealing with kind of an aging infrastructure, and we're replacing, capital equipment. But I think the budget going forward has been going good for 2023. It's about $38 million, and we're looking at hiring more firefighters, EMTs, a police officer, and a building inspector. None of these come without costs, of course. So I think the city has done well, and I hope to plan and continue to do that for them.
And Mr. Martin, overseeing the city's budget is an important role of city council. How do you feel the city has done when it comes to balancing community needs while being mindful of tax burden placed on residents and businesses? And what, if anything, would you do differently?
I think they've done okay. I think there's room to improve. A couple notable things. Dakota County loves to praise its low tax rate, #1 in the state. They do that because they push costs onto cities. So County Road 46, we're going to end up paying for 13% of that project. I would push on Commissioner Slavic and his group to maybe adopt what Hennepin County does, where it's more of an a la carte type cost share, where counties are responsible 100% for things like drainage, curb and gutter, things like that. I think there's some savings there. I would also push to create a streetlight utility as a proprietary fund. Currently, tax-exempt parcels in Hastings don't pay for streetlights. That's a $220,000 a year cost that we all pay as taxpayers that schools and churches and government centers and things like that don't pay. So I think there's some low-hanging fruit there that we could go after and improve. Thanks.
All right, now for this last question, Ms. Howes will start and will follow by Mr. Martin. Hastings City Council has identified tourism as a top priority. What can the city do to best support tourism in the community?
Thank you. Yeah, I was at a city council meeting recently, and I got to hear from Christy Bars. She does an update every year for the Tourism Bureau. The Tourism Bureau is funded by a 3% lodging tax for local hotels, and this is what pays for the tourism within Hastings. And so This does not include Vrbo or Airbnb, so I think this is a really good opportunity that we can also put a 3% lodging tax on that to make sure tourism is like a top priority throughout Hastings.
And Mr. Martin, Hastings City Council has identified tourism as a top priority. What can the city do to best support tourism in the community?
Sure. Yeah, the last study was done in 2017, so I would push to have another one done. It's been almost 6 years now since that's done. That was done, and there were some areas of opportunity there that were determined, so we could go back and see how we're doing there. I think doing a visitor analysis, who's coming here, targeting those groups through social media, targeted marketing, things like that. And then really it falls on residents. It's hard to go on a community page on Facebook when someone asks for a dining opportunity or where they want to go to eat, and someone says Prescott, Woodbury, Cottage Grove. We need to champion the community that we live in. I said that about Target. People complain Target closed. Well, you didn't shop there. If you're working in Eagan and you stop at the Target in Eagan on your way home, you're not doing your community any good. So I think it falls on us residents to really practice what we preach and be our own best advocates for the city that we live in. Thanks.
And Mr. Wright, Hastings City Council has identified tourism as a top priority. What can the city do to best support tourism in the community?
You know, I think it's a matter of a lot of collaboration and working together with the chamber, the city with the chamber, with the Downtown Business Association, and all other businesses in town, and also with the residents, and using social media and like touching on what Ian said, encouraging a positive messaging from our residents on community forums and groups, because there's some of that going on. I've seen it myself. I think but I'd say it's taken many big steps in the last few years. You know, the new website that the chamber put on, it's got all the amenities, all the cool things you can do. It's timely. There's the fall, what do you guys call it? The Choose Your Fall on the website that they have now. And so it's showing all the choices. I think I've noticed there's more effort with PR going on. There's that great video that Minnesota Live came and did in July featuring Froth and Cork and a couple other local businesses, and really well done. And Care 11 just did something I saw with the aerial of the Vermilion Gorge Bridge. So I just keep doing what they're doing, and the city help where they can and stay out of the way where we can if we're getting in the way anywhere too. Thank you.
And Mr. Pemble, Hastings City Council has identified tourism as a top priority. What can the city do to best support tourism in the community?
I'm looking at it in part of the aspect that, just as Tom had talked about and Ian, you know, we're improving, we're building a real base, and we're getting, we're following some of the examples that were laid out in the 2017 tourism review, and we sat down and said, okay, what can be done? One of the things I think that is a point that's being missed is that when you look at the businesses we have in town here, there are some very important businesses. I'll name one in particular that rents electric bicycles. And when we were talking to them in the Park and Rec Commission and said, you know, can we work something with them and also with the city and with the county parks program, because we have a beautiful trail system and we need to take advantage of that and use it. Thank you.
All right, finally, the closing statements. Candidates, you're going to have 1 minute for your closing statements. Mr. Wright, we're going to start with you and then go right down the line, so you can begin when you're ready.
Well, thank you. Thank you again, John. Thank you, the Chamber, and thank you, Mike, HCTV, for doing this again. I did have a full closing statement to prepare, but I'd rather just go off the cuff here. You know, my main selling point, why you should vote for me, is that I do have a track record for making a difference for whatever organization I'm involved in. When I came into HCTV, when I took over, I initiated a full renovation of our studio so that we had a TV studio, and our employees felt like they were working in a TV studio. And I tell you, it was an amazing difference from a night and day difference from before and after on that. I was involved with, I was a treasurer on MACTA. It's a statewide association through the Cable Association. And as a treasurer, and just small things, we had to save some money as a treasurer going through reviews instead of full audits on occasion. So I would look for little things like that and big things like a renovation and be supportive to see a difference and make a change in whatever I'm involved in, especially as a city council member for the city of Hastings. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pemble, you're next with your 1-minute closing statement.
I want to thank folks for attending this evening and listening in on tonight's conversation. I also would like to thank my fellow candidates for participating. As your next at-large city council member, I would bridge the gap between the residents and government by supporting both industrial and residential growth. I will be an advocate and a voice for our citizens to ensure their best interests are heard. I will encourage progress to make Hastings the preferred place to live and work. Let me repeat that. I will be an advocate and the voice for our citizens to ensure their best interests to live in a place and work. Please feel free to visit my Facebook page, Dave Pemble for Hastings City Council. Thank you very much. Please vote Dave Pemble for Hastings City Council at large on November 8th. Thank you.
And Mr. Martin, your closing statement.
I'm going to use this time for more of an ask for everyone here tonight, candidates included, and to those at home listening in. What I saw when this election cycle started out seemed typical. Kids being kids, taking signs in the occasional social media banter that is healthy to any relevant issue today. I then saw a drastic turn toward politicizing a nonpartisan position in local government via social media. People started attacking me personally at a level I didn't think any adult in a sound mind would feel comfortable doing, especially after the turmoil our city went through a little more than a year ago. I kept a cool head and persevered, not falling into this senseless rhetoric that wasn't for the betterment of my campaign or for the residents of this great city. I'm sharing this with you to close with an ask. No matter who up here tonight gets elected, support them. Don't tear them down. We're all running for different reasons, and each of us has our own ideas of how and what we can do to add to this great city. If I get elected and you didn't vote for me, I'll promise to treat you the same as if you did. I will lead with respect, transparency, and courage, and hope that you'll support whoever may get elected. Thank you.
And Ms. Howes, your final closing statement.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce, HCTV, everyone listening tonight, and all candidates involved. It takes a lot to come up here on this stage and talk to everyone. It's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot built up. But I can tell you, everyone up here loves this community. They love it more than anything in the world. And, you know, I can't tell you that I'm going to be better than anyone next to me, but I can promise you that I'll stay committed to our community. I'll promise you that I'll be there to help Hastings thrive, to help us prosper in every way possible. I hope that I have your vote for me for Hastings City Council, and I hope to see you in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you again for all participating. Audience, you can give them a hand if you want. And we're going to take a quick little break here to adjust the place settings and bring up our candidates for the Minnesota House of Representatives District 41B.
All right.
Welcome back to the Hastings Candidate Forum for 2022, presented by the Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce and Hastings Community TV. I'm your moderator, John Hunt from Smead Manufacturing, and now we move on to the Minnesota House of Representatives, District 41. Thank you to Tina Fulch and Shane Hudella for participating tonight. We're going to start with your opening statements and then move into the questions. Councilmember Fulch, you'll get ready to go first here with your opening statement. You have 1 minute and can start when you're ready.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Hi, again, I'm Tina Fulch, and I'm running for the Minnesota House for District 41B, which is the Hastings and Cottage Grove area. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm running for this office because I believe our leaders should bring people together rather than driving them apart. For many of us, we feel it's time to put aside our differences and work to lift up all Minnesotans. That's why I'm supported by the mayors of both Cottage Grove and Hastings, and I'm endorsed by 35 organizations who care about us, such as our teachers, nurses, firefighters, organizations that support reproductive rights in the environment, and the umbrella unions of the AFL-CIO and the St. Paul Building and Construction Trades. We need someone as myself with experience as an elected official in bringing diverse people together from our communities to find common ground solutions. As an expert in state and local government issues, I will hit the ground running. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Fulch. And Mr. Hudella, you can start your opening statement whenever you're ready.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber and the city and everybody involved tonight. I'm Shane Hudella. I'm a lifelong resident of Hastings, and like a lot of folks from both sides of the aisle, the last couple years I've just had this knot in my stomach. It's that feeling you get when something just doesn't seem right. So for me, that knot has come from every social and economic factor that has been declining lately. The fentanyl crisis, out-of-control crime that has now officially turned our beloved Minnesota into a high-crime state where violence is skyrocketing. Inflation is at a 40-year high and climbing. Gas and groceries continue to go up week after week after week. Something has to give. We have to stop screaming at each other, and we need to start working together to solve our problems. We're still the greatest state, and I'm here to start delivering solutions.
All right, thank you. Now on to the questions. We have 5 questions for the candidates in this race, and we'll rotate who starts first. Mr. Hudella, you have an opportunity to answer first on this one. What is your view of Minnesota's economy and business competitiveness?
Thank you. So, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, right now we're struggling with record 40-year high inflation. We've got to stop out-of-control spending that's put us in this position. We really do. I'll fight to return the estimated $12 billion surplus that we're going to have at the start of the session to try and put that money back in the pockets of working families. And we also need to provide better oversight on fraud. We just lost $250 million of our tax dollars to the Feeding Our Future scandal. So right now, we're struggling as the economy, and we got to get back on track. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Fulch, same question. What is your view of Minnesota's economy and business competitiveness?
Sure, thank you. I agree with Shane about inflation. It's crazy, it's out of control. But you know, it's actually happening throughout the globe, not just here in Minnesota. It's a result of labor shortages that have been caused by the pandemic. Here in Minnesota, although we've experienced a job boom and in the last 2 years, and we have the lowest level of unemployment recorded, we have about 70,000 people who haven't returned back to the workforce. So in talking to our local business leaders, they've identified the lack of affordable childcare as a significant hurdle to bringing back a large percentage of those workers who haven't rejoined the workforce. If parents can't work, we will continue to have labor shortages. And if we're going to help small businesses compete, we need to further invest in Minnesota's Child Care Assistance Program, which currently has a 6-month wait list. And last, I feel that we need to fight like hell against candidates like my opponent who want to force women to bring to term pregnancies regardless of their ability to financially or physically take care of those children. A surge of unplanned pregnancies will only further worker shortages and place a greater financial burden on assistance programs.
Thank you. All right, for question number 2, Councilmember Fulch, we're going to start with you. Minnesota residents and businesses value the ability to get things done at the Capitol. What does that mean to you, and what approach will you take to make progress happen?
Sure, thanks. Well, as a Hastings council member here for the past 6 years, I've learned that as an elected official, to get things done for our community, it means really participating amongst a wide variety of groups in different roles, such as our local nonprofits and our business groups. My experience in governing has taught me that to be effective, you need the ability to collaborate with all sides. Being able to compromise and find common values is key to bringing groups together to resolve challenges. I hold a master's degree in public administration. My professional expertise spans the last 30 years in state and local government, finance, public infrastructure, law enforcement, and economic development. This background has given me in-depth understanding of many of the complex issues facing our state, and more importantly, how the various levels of government and industries work together. I plan to bring my skills in collaboration building and being a local fighter for our small businesses and residents to the Capitol. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Hodella, same question. Minnesota residents and businesses value the ability to get things done at the Capitol. What does that mean to you, and what approach will you take to make progress happen?
So personal relationships and being willing to listen are key. An example of where I've done that, my campaign Facebook page has always had the comments turned on. We've never blocked anyone. My opponent can't say that. She's had 8 posts in October already alone where comments are restricted. Now, I don't always agree with the folks from the other side of the aisle when they come on and have dialogue, but there's room to find common ground. There really is, and that's an approach we need to take. Just 2 days ago, we found common ground with someone that doesn't agree with my political views, and we agreed that mental health is a crisis right now in our state, and it needs to be addressed. You can't turn the comments off when you're going to the state capitol. You have to have those conversations.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question. Mr. Hodella, you're going to start with this one. Minnesota has had a budget surplus for many consecutive years and is projected to have another large surplus this year. What are your thoughts on the state budget, and how do you think that this money could be put to best use?
Well, we have an overtaxation problem in Minnesota as evidenced by this massive surplus that we have. I'll fight for significant tax relief for Minnesotans so they can keep more of their hard-earned money. I will be part of the team that repeals the income tax, or repeals the tax on Social Security and provides across-the-board tax cuts in 2023.
And Councilmember Fulch, Minnesota has had this budget surplus for many consecutive years and is projected to have another large surplus this year. What are your thoughts on the state budget, and how do you think this money could be put to best use?
Thanks. Well, Minnesota's surplus last year was due to a number of factors, which included a strong performing economy under the Walz administration, where incoming revenue was greater than anticipated. I think we should look at 3 primary choices for using our surplus. First, we need to fully fund our pre-K through 12 schools. The legislature needs to stop underfunding our schools and forcing area school boards to figure out gap funding through the passage of local school referendums. My opponent wants to further bleed the public school system by mandating vouchers to be given to private institutions. Second, we need to invest in the backlog of infrastructure projects that plague Minnesota as our aging roadways, outdated water treatment systems, and our looming PFAS issues are before us. And lastly, let's use some of that excess revenue as refunds to help our working families tackle higher food and fuel inflationary costs that we are all experiencing. Thanks.
Great. Councilmember Fulch, you're going to be starting with this next question, which is related to that. State funding through bonding bills has assisted the city of Hastings in recent years. Knowing there are infrastructure projects like Highway 61 coming down the pipeline, what would you support? Would you support a bonding bill to help pay for road improvements like Highway 61? If not, what other thoughts do you have on funding infrastructure improvements in your districts?
Sure, thanks. Well, investments in Minnesota's transportation and water systems are vitally important for commerce to thrive. With the metro area projecting to expand by an additional 700,000 in the next 20 years, we need to be proactive in building our infrastructure. Unlike my opponent who wants to eliminate the gas tax, which would be devastating for the quality of our roads, I believe we need to completely re-examine road infrastructure funding. In the next decade, electric cars will surpass traditional vehicles in sales. Furthermore, gas tax, it hasn't been adjusted for inflation the last 14 years. So we need to devise a long-range statewide transportation funding plan. In the near term, I support dedicating all sales tax on auto repair parts to transportation. Secondly, the state will need to bond to assist our cities to upgrade water treatment facilities to filter out the PFAS forever chemicals, as the federal government is in the process of updating acceptable levels of it within our drinking water. Thanks.
And Mr. Hodella, same question. State funding through bonding bills has assisted the city of Hastings in recent years. Knowing there are infrastructure projects like Highway 61 coming down the pipeline, would you support a bonding bill to help pay for road improvement plans like Highway 61? And if not, what other thoughts do you have on funding infrastructure improvements in your district?
Yes, absolutely, we'd fund it. We have a state budget of $50 billion. We have more than enough resources to prioritize these projects without raising taxes. Roads, bridges, other infrastructure, that's the core function of government. And we need to get it done. We need to get Highway 61 done. We need to get the Keats Avenue project for our viewers in Cottage Grove done. And we have the money to do it. Governor Walz and the Democrats are still fighting for a 20% increase on our gas tax when we don't need the money. And I can't imagine with the prices at the pump right now that my opponent would advocate for raising a gas tax.
All right, we're going to move to the final question here, and Mr. Hodella, you're going to start with this one. In recent years, there have been proposals at the Minnesota legislature to mandate paid leave and other workforce or workplace benefits. Do you believe that the state should play a role when it comes to private sector workplace benefits and wages? And please explain.
Well, I'm generally opposed to government mandates in the workplace. Now, paid family leave is incredibly important. I think we can get it done with some input from employers and incentivize it so that it makes sense for everyone. Having the government tell an employer, though, how to run their business is a bad idea, especially when it's one-size-fits-all mandates. An example of that would be Walmart and Dugarrel's Pub. They're very different businesses, and for the government to come in and pass broad mandates that apply to all of those, it just doesn't make sense.
And Councilmember Fulch, in recent years, there have been proposals at the Minnesota legislature to mandate paid leave and other workplace benefits. Do you believe that the state should play a role when it comes to private sector workplace benefits and wages? Please explain.
Sure. Well, workplace mandates are minimum standards meant to protect public health, safety, and wellness of both workers and the public. Responsible leaders realize that there's a need to balance between these issues. I believe in working hand in glove with our business community to make sure that their perspectives are incorporated to any planning efforts that directly affect them. During the pandemic here in Hastings, I took the lead on working with our Downtown Business Association as a council member in identifying solutions to the challenges that the pandemic mandates were causing our small businesses. The outside patios in the downtown are a result of those efforts, which in the long run help boost tourism. Taking adversity and turning it into an opportunity for everyone takes effort. Working collaboratively and finding common values and identifying solutions is hard work. But my experience as an effective leader working with our local businesses will go far, and I know that I can be very successful at the Capitol. Thanks.
And Mr. Mr. Hodel, you can start with your statement as well. Yes.
So I'm not a career politician. I never had any intentions of getting involved in politics in my life. I've got an amazing family that's here with me tonight. I built a incredibly successful nonprofit that I started to help military kids, but I felt like I had to get involved. I had to get involved because in 1988, I rose my right hand and swore an oath to the American people that I would defend our freedom, our values, and our way of life. I've had the privilege to travel the world and serve for 24 years with all walks of life, where I got to use my leadership skills and live by values such as honor, duty, respect, and integrity. I look forward to bringing those same skills and those same values to the state capitol as your next representative for Hastings, Cottage Grove, Denmark, and Integer townships. Thank you.
And thank you both candidates. Audience, your cue now to thank them for this. All right. Your closing statement. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Shane. Well, I'm running to represent you in St. Paul because on the issues that matter most to us, healthcare, education, supporting reproductive rights, I believe in the famous Wellstone quote that we all do better when we all do better. Now more than ever, our legislature needs to step up and work together to find common sense solutions. It starts with setting aside rhetoric and fear-mongering and focus on our common values where we can work together because these should be nonpartisan issues. With a record $9 billion surplus from last year that went largely untapped, we have the opportunity to shift the state budget to fully fund public education and stop local school referendums. We can also further pilot programs that support our first responders, drive down costs for daycare, and create a family medical leave program for small businesses to be competitive. I want to be your voice in St. Paul, and I'll be tenacious about doing what's right. I'm asking for your vote. Please visit my website at tinafolch.com for more information. Thank you to everyone here tonight, and thank you, Shane. We went to high school together, and we try to remain very friendly and cordial, so thank you for that.
All right, now we can give you a hand.
Yes.
And we'll be taking a quick little break here and come back for the Minnesota State Senate District 54. 41. Typo.
you, and he's going to let the online audience know that we're coming back a little bit earlier in about 5 minutes.
All right, well, stay tuned. Coming up in just about 5 minutes, we're going to continue our candidate forum with Minnesota State District 41. So stay tuned. Well, welcome back to the Hastings Candidate Forum for 2022. Now, please join me in welcoming our candidates for Minnesota State Senate in District 41. Thank you, Tom DePel and Judy Seeberger, for participating tonight. We're going to start with an opening statement. You get 1 minute, and Mr. DePel, you have the opportunity to go first. You can start anytime you're ready.
Well, good evening, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce in Hastings for hosting the event. My name's Tom DePel, and I am running for Senate District 41. I come to this position and this campaign with business experience and a goal to serve and sacrifice for the district. I've been married to my wife, Carrie, for 14 years. We have 6 children together, little blessings that are out with us on the campaign trail most days. And also, I've been a business owner for 14 years as well. We have 20 employees. We're located in the old bank building off of Highway 61 next to Subway in Newport. And I love my employees. They're hardworking. And my business experience that I've gained over the last 14 years and beyond is what I intend to bring to the Capitol, to bring real tax relief, tax cuts, and relieve the pain of the inflation that's been inflicted on the members of our district.
Thank you, Mr. DePel. Ms. Seeberger, it's time for your opening statement. You have 1 minute and can start when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm Judy Seeberger. I'm running to be your next senator here in District 41. I'm a paramedic. I'm a member of my local fire department. I'm a mom. I'm a military wife. And I'm a small business owner. I have experience, real-world experience, in facing difficult challenges every day, in knowing what it's like to be a military family and the sacrifice that comes with that. And I work on the front lines of public safety every time I clock in as a paramedic. I intend to bring my experience and my know-how and my ability to do challenging work and do hard things to the Capitol. I'm not afraid of rolling up my sleeves and doing what's right. And I will rely on my real-world experience to get things done for the people here in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you both for your opening statements. And now on to the questions. Ms. Seeberger, you're going to have the opportunity to answer this question first, which is, what is your view of Minnesota's economy and business competitiveness?
As a small business owner, I have felt the effects of this economy. As the mom of 2 teenage boys, I've seen my grocery bill lately, and it's not pretty. But that aside, I think we need to remember that Minnesota's economy remains strong. We emerged from this pandemic stronger than the surrounding states. We have a massive budget surplus, and it's not doing anything. We're doing about the dumbest thing with the surplus we can do right now, which is nothing. And that's because things did not get done at the legislature during the last session. That's not okay with me, and that's why I want to get in there, and I want to do the hard work. And I want to address the issues that matter to the people in District 41 and to those in the state of Minnesota.
And Mr. DePel, same question. What is your view of Minnesota's economy and businesses' competitiveness?
Well, unfortunately, even though Minnesotans are working extremely hard coming out of the pandemic and the shutdowns, we have the 6th highest tax rate on individuals in the entire country. And not only that, but we also have the 2nd highest tax rate on businesses in the entire country. Second only to New Jersey, and that's set to sunrise in 2 years, at which point we will be number 1 in not such a good way. And so what I intend to do is bring my business experience, success in budgeting, success in leading, and success in holding people accountable to get the best result, and bring that experience to the Capitol to lower tax rates, to make us more competitive in the business environment, and likewise to make us more competitive in the United States to attract businesses to our district, and not only to our district, but our entire state.
Thank you. So now for this next question, Mr. DePel, you're going to start. Minnesota has the third highest corporate tax in the nation. In addition, Minnesota has 4 individual income tax rates, with the top one being the 6th highest in the nation. Would you support lowering corporate tax, income tax, or both? And if not, what can the state do to stay competitive in attracting residents and businesses?
I absolutely believe that we should lower taxes. We have almost a $10 billion budget surplus. The budget was passed. It was $52 billion. It funded the entire government for the extended period of time that it was passed for. And now we have a surplus. First of all, the surplus should be given back to taxpayers because that's their money. When you spend beyond a budget and there's a surplus, it should be returned. Beyond that, it shows unequivocally that we are collecting too many taxes from the citizens of our state. Therefore, I believe in the Republican plan that was passed this last session in the Senate, that we should offer tax relief to hurting families, families that are struggling to buy groceries, that are struggling to buy gas at the pump. Unfortunately, my opponent's party, they recommended a 70% tax increase on gasoline recently, and I think that's untenable. I think we should be decreasing taxes on hurting Minnesotans and the constituents in our district.
All right, Ms. Seeberger, same question for you. Minnesota has the third highest corporate tax in the nation. In addition, Minnesota has 4 individual income tax rates, with the top being the 6th highest in the nation. Would you support lowering corporate tax, income tax, or both? And if not, what can the state do to stay competitive in attracting residents and businesses?
I understand the difficulty that folks have with taxes. As a business owner, I struggle with that myself. I do believe that we can do better when it comes to taxes. I would like to see the tax on Social Security benefits eliminated. That would give our seniors a break when they desperately need it. I would also like to see common sense tax cuts that benefit the middle class, our seniors, our veterans, and I think that's something that we can do. What we don't want to do is decimate our economy and decimate our bottom line so that we end up with budget deficits in the future, and I think we need to be smart about that. I take issue with the implication that I somehow support a gas tax. Nothing could be further from the truth. I don't support anything, any increase in a gas tax, and I want to go on record as saying that I don't support that at all.
All right, now for our next question, Ms. Seeberger, you're going to be starting this one. Attracting and retaining workers is a top priority for businesses in our community. Do you have any strategies or recommendations to help employers with workforce challenges?
We have seen workforce challenges. Working in public safety, I've seen it every time I clock in as a paramedic. We have paramedic shortages, we have shortages in law enforcement, we have shortages in the fire service. And here's where we can have an excellent opportunity to partner with education here in Minnesota. We can do more to partner with community colleges, to partner with training programs at the trades. I've toured numerous trade facilities, the steam fitter pipe fitters, the painters, and they have amazing training facilities. Not every kid is going to college. I have one kid in college and one that's not going to go to college, and that's great. But what we can do is we can ensure that everybody who comes out of a training program that can partner with the business so that they are ready to get good paying jobs and we have a workforce, a work-ready workforce.
And Mr. DePel, same question for you. Attracting and retaining workers is a top priority for businesses in our community. Do you have any strategies or recommendations to help employers with workforce challenges?
Absolutely. So we already talked about taxes, and regulatory burdens on businesses create greater difficulty in hiring. We saw the, I believe, extreme challenge coming out of the pandemic, and what occurred there is people were afraid to go back to work. I think we have to be inviting to potential employees and employers to our district, and likewise within that, we need to be very careful in our regulatory burden. Unfortunately, again, my opponent's party supports a great deal of environmental regulatory burden. I believe that too many burdens in that sense can stifle business, can stifle growth, and not only that, but affect the bottom line of those businesses to be able to support their employees. All
right, we're going to move on to our next question now, and Mr. DePel, you'll be starting this one. Minnesota residents and businesses value the ability to get things done at the Capitol. Tell us about a time where you worked with multiple stakeholders, including those with different viewpoints than yours, to successfully move a project forward.
I appreciate the question. I do this on a daily basis. I have managers at my business, and we have different departments. And each department comes at the solution from a different perspective. I need to sit down with my managers to understand how are we going to budget correctly? What equipment are we going to purchase? How do we need to lead a particular team in a particular direction? And we need to gain consensus. Otherwise, you can't lead. If you have a disjointed group of people, you can't come together and move forward. And so I plan to be an independent voice for our district that brings people together, brings constituents, businesses together, and brings greater prosperity and defeats the inflation and the crime that we see that's running out of control.
And Ms. Seeberger, same question for you. Minnesota residents and businesses value the ability to get things done at the Capitol. Tell us about a time where you worked with multiple stakeholders, including those with different viewpoints than yours, to successfully move a project forward.
One of the big reasons why I decided to run in this race is because I do have a proven record of being able to get things done. I am a paramedic. I'm out on the streets making critical and important decisions in a fast time frame every single day. I'm also a trial attorney and a civil mediator. I'm a volunteer mediator with Washington County District Small Claims Court, and you can't find two people that are more at odds than folks that are suing each other in small claims court. As a mediator, I sit down with those folks, and more times than not, we're able to come to a resolution. This is the kind of problem-solving experience that I will bring to the Senate. I wonder about my opponent who calls some folks abominations, whether he's going to be able to work with folks in the Senate that he considers abominations. I'm not like that. I work with everyone, and I intend to bring my problem-solving skills to the Senate.
All right, and Ms. Seeberger, for the final question, you'll be starting. State funding through bonding bills has assisted the city of Hastings in recent years. Knowing there are infrastructure projects like Highway 61 coming down the pipeline, would you support a bonding bill to help pay for road improvements for plans for like Highway 61? And if not, what other thoughts do you have on funding infrastructure improvements in your districts?
Bonding plays a really important role in making sure that our infrastructure projects get funded, that we get good jobs for folks, and that communities continue to grow and develop. And we've seen that happen here in communities up and down Senate District 41. Yes, I support bonding. I think it's an important way to get the money into the communities and get these projects done.
And Mr. DePel, same question for you. State funding through bonding bills has assisted the city of Hastings in recent years. Knowing there are projects like the Highway 61 project coming down the line and supporting, would you support a bonding bill to help pay for road improvement plans like Highway 61? And if not, what other thoughts do you have on funding infrastructure improvements in our district?
Well, as we've seen, we passed a $52 billion budget, and then we had a $10 billion surplus. And so certainly the money is there to take care of Minnesota's infrastructure. That needs to be utilized wisely and not wasted on programs that aren't going to fundamentally help Minnesotans, whether that be Minnesota businesses or the constituents in Minnesota. They deserve to have roads, infrastructure, and to have something that's going to last and support the surrounding community. So absolutely, I believe the money is already there. There is no need to raise taxes to do so, and functionally, I will go to bat to get those funds for our district.
All right, we're going to now move on to the closing statement, so you'll have 1 minute each for this. We're going to start with Ms. Seeberger. Please tell us why residents in District 41 should vote for you. You have 1 minute.
I have the real-life experience working as a paramedic in public safety. As a teacher, I think I forgot to mention that before, but I've been in all these different facets of our society and our community. And I have the experience to really roll up my sleeves and get things done. I am not afraid to show up. I am not afraid to be present, and I'm not afraid to do what's right and answer tough questions. I do that every day. Folks can count on me to fight for the values held by the people here in Senate District 41. Folks can count on me to roll up my sleeves and do the hard work that needs to be done. Folks can count on me to do what's right by the people here in Senate District 41 and the state of Minnesota. I'm asking for your vote this November, and I look forward to serving all you guys in the Senate.
And Mr. DePel, your closing statement, please tell us why residents in District 41 should vote for you. You have 1 minute.
Well, as I said in my opening statement, I've been married for 14 years. We have 6 children. I've been married for 14 years. We have 6 children, and I've been running a business for 14 years. I've actually been a business owner for 20 years, and I intend to bring that steady hand to our district. I believe that my opponent's resume shows that she has bounced from job to job and career to career. Over the last 14 years, I have been fighting hard for my employees. I've been fighting hard in our district here to bring jobs. I've proven that with the 20 employees that we have. We've stayed on the cutting edge. I believe Minnesota can stay on the cutting edge as well in the United States. And it's my goal to bring my experience as a family man, as a husband, and as a business owner to the state of Minnesota and our district for the betterment of my constituents.
All right. Thank you both again for participating. That concludes tonight's forum. We want to thank all the candidates for participating tonight. This candidate forum was brought to you by the Hastings Chamber of Commerce and Hastings Community TV. The recorded version of this forum will be on the Hastings Chamber website and on the Hastings Community TV YouTube channel. The rest is up to all of you. Please be sure to vote. Have a great night, and let's hear it for all the candidates.